Okay, welcome everybody. I'm really excited today to be presenting on the topic of product portfolio management. And I would like to thank Product School for giving me this opportunity. Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Deepak Parmani. Currently, I work as a director of product management within Moody's Analytics. Moody's Analytics is a subsidiary of Moody's Corporation. We develop B2B software products and solutions for enterprise clients in the financial services domain. More specifically about my role is I manage a portfolio of products within our business line where I strategize new offerings and solutions for our client base. I've spent multiple years with clients to help them enhance decision-making with the use of data and technology. Now, I would like to kickstart this discussion with a quote from John Harvey Jones. So as you can see it in front of your screen, the quote basically indicates that we always have these projects which we have already invested too much time, and we kind of know that they're projected to fail. And instead of putting more resources into the project or more time and effort, sometimes it's better if it's utilized elsewhere. And hence, we should accept the obvious and try to move on. In other words, sometimes in business, you probably have to kill your favorite projects and allow other projects to succeed. So I just want to leave you with this quote before we get started. Now, to provide more context to our discussion today, as I mentioned, I work with Moody's Analytics. We do have multiple business lines, and each of those business lines, we do offer multiple products and solutions across Moody's Analytics. So portfolio product management is a really important tool for us. It helps us prioritize between multiple projects, as well as put our bets on the winning horses. It provides us an opportunity to reflect on success of our existing products and solutions, and then forces us to think about where should we invest for our new opportunities. Now, this is a tool which is not only used by Moody's Analytics, but it's used by a lot of big companies globally. So when you talk about big tech giants like your Microsoft and Apple, they usually have a suite of products, and the management needs to make a decision on how they want to invest in these products. And the case is similar even outside of technology. If you look at retail giants like P&G or Kellogg's, they also have multiple products, and they need to have an efficient way of managing these products and then also develop new product ideas. So essentially, a product portfolio management can be applied across industries. So it's not necessarily a tool which is required in technology or tech industry. It can be applied across a wide variety of industries, and it could be a very, very useful tool. For this session, this is my agenda. So I'm going to talk I'm going to start with talking about goals of portfolio product management. So just to inform you, why do we think portfolio product management is important, and why do we need that in an organization? What's the role of product portfolio management? Then we'll discuss some techniques to manage portfolio of products, which can be practical and can be utilized by organizations or by large organizations. And lastly, I'll conclude by reiterating some of the benefits of portfolio management within a product organization. So let's dive into it. So as I described earlier, in a large organization, it's imperative for management to understand how different products are performing. So portfolio product management has a lot of important applications. The one application is that management can use portfolio product management to make informed decisions on the future of a firm. Now, one thing to note is for an effective strategy, it's important to understand the current portfolio of products and then focus on individual product initiatives. So that's your starting point. It's very essential to understand the state of the business and understand which product initiatives you want to invest in. Now, additionally, from a management perspective, the resources are always scarce, right? So when you talk, at least my experience with my management is that there's never enough resources to do a given project or build a given product. So from a management perspective, they're always looking at ways to most efficiently allocate their scarce resources with projects which have high growth potential, and then eliminate the underperforming offerings. By analyzing products for both business environment and products overall place, companies can appropriately allocate resources and enhance promising products to foster new product development. So the two things which you would want to understand as part of portfolio product management. One thing is essentially understanding what's your product's overall place within the market. How is it doing well compared to its competitors, for example? And then also understand what is it bringing in to your organization in terms of revenue, in terms of cost. What's the financial impact of your product within the organization? And this approach is important because it reduces resources for lagging products and then encourages products which have huge potential. So that's a very important question from a management standpoint, which portfolio product management can help you answer. And what's the challenge? End of the day, what's your end goal? The end goal is to identify a right set of products by balancing the long-term versus short-term strategy. And more importantly, linking the company's overall strategy to your product growth. So that's what you're trying to achieve with product portfolio management. And once you achieve that, once you identify the right set of products in the organization, then you could focus on either improving existing products or rebranding them, or completely decide to build a new product pipeline. So that's eventually what you want to get from it. So from a management perspective, it's really important to understand product management and to understand where it fits in the overall company strategy. Now that we spoke about the goals of product portfolio management, we should also think about it sounds like an obvious thing to do, right? So it sounds like all companies or all firms should be using this tool and efficiently managing their portfolio of products. Now, but in reality, centralizing portfolio product management is a great starting point, but it's never easy. Now, what are the challenges do we see with that? And that's true with organizations of all sizes, and that comes in the way of making these efficient allocations or efficient decisions to maximize your firm's top line or your company's top line. Now, the common challenges we see for product portfolio management strategy stems from a natural resistance to change. So, for example, if you've been working in a product since a long time, and as part of product portfolio management, your decision is to eliminate that product, most people who are working on the product for years, they don't support it, right? So they don't want that change. They don't want to actually start building a new product because their argument is this is already working. Why do we need to change something which works? Now, you obviously want to delve one level deeper and understand what's wrong with the product, but in certain cases you will always find in your staff a high resistance to change. So so that's number one. So in terms of changing or working for a new initiative or changing their internal goals. Now, apart from that, it's also difficult to align on new resource allocation plans, because as part of your portfolio product management, you might come up with some resource allocation which you think makes the most sense from efficiently allocating resources or maximizing revenue, but not everyone is going to align very easily on that, just because some products might end up getting a lot more resources than others, and typically getting alignment across different product managers could be a Herculean task. And this is also due to alignment of different groups within the organization. So organizations always face the challenge that are each of the individual groups aligned with the overall company objective. So that's kind of one of the challenges. And the reason it stems from, because management team essentially is focused on the financial aspects of the product or the company as a whole, right? So they're looking at growth and profitability, but a lot of the middle managers are probably not looking at the same KPIs, or they're not translating their work into the same KPIs. So there definitely needs to be alignment from management to all the middle managers or the product managers across the business line. And obviously the third challenge I would say is something you see with a lot of large initiatives, large cross-functional initiatives within a company, which is having clear lines of communication and a well-defined strategy. And this is essentially not very specific to product portfolio management, but this is something you would see with pushing down any large initiatives across the organization. And the main challenge there is you want to align the day-to-day operations with the overall financial goals. So it starts with communication. It starts with understanding how your day-to-day goals should be linked with company strategy, and then providing clear lines of communication to all the employees. So this is essentially some of the challenges we face today with using or implementing efficient product portfolio allocation. But these can be dealt with, and there are multiple ways these can be addressed, which we'll talk about in the next session. So let's talk about product portfolio management techniques. So before we get into kind of details and techniques about how to manage a product portfolio, there are a few important things to understand. Now, you need to understand your product's overall picture, and where does it really fit in the overall product life cycle. So as you can see in this chart, you can see different phases a product goes through. So this is kind of true with every product, and you need to identify in your portfolio products where each of those products really fit in. Which stage do they really fit in among these stages? Now, if you introduce a new product to the market, it's almost left of this graph, right? It's not even it's, let's say, pre-introduction, because you come up with a prototype, you come up with an MVP, it's even before you come up with the MVP. You have no clients yet, but you're just testing the idea. But once you test the idea and you have a product which is ready for the market, you reach something called a kind of a new product phase or an introduction phase. And this phase is where you have, you kind of starting to pick up some sales. So you've already introduced a product to the market. You've got some initial buy-in from customers, based on your initial market research, and you already have an MVP, which is some clients are already using. They're providing you feedback on your product. So this is where what we call the introduction phase, which is very early stage, and you're just starting from the ground, and you're kind of waiting for the product to really capitalize on the market share. So that's kind of for new products. This is where you typically start, which is the introduction phase. And then you jump onto the next phase, which is the growth phase. Now, this phase is usually very exciting because now you have a great push in sales. You found a product market fit. There's demand for the product. You know that your product is in growth phase when your growth numbers are off the charts, and you're selling a lot of your product, and at the same time you're pushing out features, you're pushing out a lot of releases. So this is kind of the most exciting phase, I would say, for teams to working on, because they know the product is doing well and you're seeing accelerated growth. And your numbers look fantastic, right? Your numbers look more significant than ever. This is kind of your growth phase. So if you look at the growth phase, this is where your product is on an upward trajectory on exponential growth. Now, after this phase, once you have the accelerated growth, your product growth does hit a plateau at some point. So that's the next phase we're going to talk about, which is your sort of the deacceleration phase, and where the numbers sort of you're still growing, but not at the same pace anymore. So this is where what we call the maturity phase for the product. So once your products make it through the growth phase, it's all about planning and consolidation, right? So now you're looking at your sales and financial targets. You still want to be profitable. You still want to push the growth accelerator. But at the same time, at this phase, because you've acquired a lot of customers, you want to make sure that you are improving the customer journey. You're focusing on client retention and customer satisfaction as well. Because now that you're matured, you have a good client base, you're kind of in that phase where your product is a cash cow, and you want to make sure that you keep churning in the revenue, especially for subscription business. This is a great position to be in. So your product is matured, but at the same time, you have a large base of customers, and you have a good, strong revenue base, but you're still trying to grow your revenue base, find additional use cases for your clients, and make sure they keep subscribing to your products while you're adding a few more clients into your product solution. So what's the next phase? Now, this is obviously not the most exciting one, and not many product managers like to see this, which is called what they call the decline phase. So and this is when the product reaches a level of maturity, and now you're getting a lot of fierce competition or market rejection. So it could be based on maybe your competitors have caught up, and they're offering better solutions, or there is a market rejection for your product, which could be based on just the demand in the market has dried, for multiple reasons, depending on what what the use case of the main primary use case of the product is. So, and this is true for most products, that they will eventually see an inevitable decline. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because you've kind of seen the whole growth. You've seen the introduction. You've seen high growth phase, a maturity phase, and now you're seeing the decline. But I think it's a cause for concern in the sense that now you want to think about what decisions do you want to make about the product. So it doesn't mean that you have to shelve the product and just completely stop selling it, right? But that could be one option if you think there's a need for a next generation of the product. Or you can still focus on a niche market and get a slow, steady flow of customers if you kind of add certain features, if you improve the product in certain areas, you might still be able to grow the product. So a decline, although it seems negative, but in the outset, but it does bring a host of different possibilities. So the purpose of this, the reason I'm showing this chart, and I'm sure all of you must have seen this in the past as well, but it's when you're managing your product portfolio, it's important to classify your products in one of these 4 stages. So I think that's really important to understand. So once you do that, there are a few other techniques which we'll cover. So yeah, so this is the next chart is I'm showing you the BCG Matrix. So a lot of you must have already seen this, in your business school, or if you must have read books about. This is originally developed by the Boston Consulting Group, and it focuses on 4 quadrants for your product. So if you look at the X and Y axis, it's essentially your market growth versus market share, and depending on where your product really fits in, it can fit in one of these 4 quadrants. Now, let's talk a little bit about what are these 4 quadrants, right? So the purpose of the 4 quadrants is to distinguish, what are the low and high markets, and what's the product position with respect to those markets. So let's look at your high market growth, high market share products, which are your stars, right? So that's an ideal state. You want all your products to be in. These are dominant products in a growing market, and these are cash cows. You have a good client base, you have a good customer base, and you still are essentially still are enjoying a good amount of market share. So not only that you have good market share, you also have great growth potential as well. So these are your stars, and these can be legacy products, right? So they can be part of a steady market or a diminishing market, but these are the type of products which kind of make up for bulk of profitability for your company. Now let's look at the other extreme, which are your dogs, right? So these are low market share, low market growth products. So these are typically in a declining market, and they're obviously draining resources and are your contenders for elimination, right? So if you're in this quadrant, you know that these are good candidates for elimination. And the other two quadrants are interesting as well. So you have your cash cows. So these are essentially your low market growth, but these products have high market share. So the reason these are cash cows is there's a lot of subscription revenue coming from these products, and they can actually help sponsor or help fund other projects within the organization. So that's a great part. The downside is obviously they have low growth potential. So these cash cows are really important because they help you fund other projects. So you'll definitely have some cash cows in your portfolio, and these can be looked at as opportunities for you to kind of go either take this product into a next phase or invest in other products. Now, the most interesting ones out of these four are the question marks, right? So the question marks are the ones where you have essentially high market share. You have low market share, but you have high market growth. So what does that really mean? Because that there is a potential for innovation in that market because it's growing, but your product has not really captured a good amount of that share yet. So the reason these are question marks is you have to kind of make a decision for these of which way do you want to go. Can you improve the product to actually obtain that market share, or these products should be eliminated because for whatever reason this is not something you can invest and take it to the next phase. So these are the question marks are most interesting because they're not a cause of concern, but they are your opportunities which you can convert into your stars. So that's kind of your objective. So what have we learned so far, right? So the first step was understanding the product lifecycle. So understanding where your product fits into your lifecycle. And then the second technique is more about classifying your products into these different four quadrants. And this helps you identify which products you really want to work on and which products you want to leave alone. Like if you have a star, I would leave it alone because unless the market growth or the market share is going to be impacted, you want to let them grow. And the question marks are something you want to really think about and see how you want to approach them going forward. So these are a couple of tools which we have used even within our company to identify how we want to fund our next set of products. Now, another important piece here is your financial goals, and I think this is another technique which I think you would really find useful, is to look at your different products, especially when you look at your question marks, right? You try to see either your question marks or cash cows. You try to see what are their financial KPIs. How are they doing from a management perspective, or from a growth perspective and a margin perspective, right? So I can give you some examples here. So on the screen here, you see a few products on different parts of the margin or net margin or sales growth cycle. Now, you ideally obviously want to be on the right top of this graph because the y-axis is your sales growth, the x-axis is net margin, and in an ideal case, you want to maximize both. So you want to be on the right top of this chart. Now, if you look at some products right here, so for example, product A. So product A could be a product which is something you want to look at. You definitely want to look at and closely look at what you want to do about it, because there are two things. One, it's low net margin, so you're not, the cost is high, so you're not making enough margin on it, and then also has some diminishing growth opportunities. So product A is something you probably want to look at closely and see what you want to improve. Do you want to, if there are growth opportunities, do you want to push and see if you can get additional growth so you can justify all the cost of that product? Or do you want to just look at the net margin and say, you know what, we're getting enough subscription revenue, but we can be more efficient and try to improve the net margin of this product, because then even if it doesn't become a star, it will become a cash cow for us going forward. So talking about cash cows, product B is a good example, where it could be a product, a legacy product, which has a lot of clients, but it's already experiencing negative growth. But then from a margin perspective, it's doing incredibly well. So that could be one of your cash cows, which can help fund other projects or determine, how you want to use that money and invest in other products or other initiatives. And product C is definitely exciting, because product C is probably a very new product. It's probably in a growth phase where there is a good growth opportunity which you can already expand further, but it's negative margin because right now you've not started making money on it, or not sufficient money on it to be on the positive side of this quadrant. So product C is an example of a new product initiative. And then product D is probably doing better than all the other products from a net margin as well as the growth. So it does still have constant growth, and at the same time it has sufficient net margins as well. So it's a product which is going in the trajectory to become a star. So I think looking at your products from a financial aspect can also help you make the decision that where does it sit out of those four quadrants. So this is an important tool which can really be helpful for you to understand the financial health of your product, and more importantly, how does it contribute to your overall company's financial objectives. So once you have all of this information, the next step is kind of thinking about, okay, how can I use this information to make product portfolio decisions? So that's when what we term internally is what we call a product portfolio roadmap, or a portfolio product roadmap, which is nothing but creating a roadmap across your portfolio of products. And the goal is not to necessarily streamline all the different products or all the different initiatives. It's just a single lens to kind of look at prioritization across all your products, and with the goal of aligning it with the company objectives. So how do you go about it? So if I break it down into a few steps, the first step is basically stating a company strategy and goals, right? So in the end, you basically want to understand your company's vision and your company's objectives, and see what are the key objectives for the company set out for this particular year, and how your products can help to achieve those. And that leads us to step two. So step two is assigning initiatives to achieve those goals. So each of those goals, be it financial or it could be goals to improve customer satisfaction, could be linked to products and initiatives. So the second step is naturally to assign these initiatives to each of these product goals, so that you kind of have better alignment of your product organization with your management. The next step is prioritizing your portfolio level and aligning all the different product managers, right? So once the prioritization should be done across functions, across business lines, and explaining to the product managers that what are our criteria for prioritization. So the criteria could be more specifically to achieve a particular goal. So for example, if one of the goals, company goals on top, is to improve customer satisfaction, there might be some prioritization of some features for certain products which are going to serve that goal. And that's why it might be, it might have high prioritization versus introducing some new features which will give certain growth revenue. And then based on the company objectives, if there are certain new product initiatives which will meet the company's objectives, those features or those initiatives will be prioritized higher. So I think the purpose of this step is to clearly articulate what is the criteria for prioritizing each of the product roadmaps and aligning it with the different product managers. And the last step is to essentially finalize the roadmap, which includes your prioritized list of initiatives aligned with goals and distribute it to the organization for better communication. So that's the last step, where you finalize the roadmap, and then you're going to look at it every quarter just to make sure that you're making progress on your objectives. So these are some of the techniques which we've used internally in our company to get alignment across different product organizations. So let me start by concluding some concluding points about product portfolio management. So what did we learn today? So we essentially learned that product portfolio management is aimed at maximizing product investments and aligning with business objectives. So these are two clear benefits of product portfolio management. And apart from that, it also provides other benefits such as improved visibility, portfolio positioning. So you can better make a case for your product, or make a case for your portfolio product prioritization. And then the prioritization should be, end of the day, based on your customer focus and effective resource allocation. So those are the clear benefits you see for organizations which follow product portfolio management. And overall, when you talk internally to these organizations, you would also observe that there's improved communication and collaboration, because now everyone is signing up for more cohesive message across product portfolio prioritization. So since everyone understands and they sign up for it, there's definitely better collaboration across different teams on achieving the company's objectives. Now, in summary, I would essentially like to say that if you do have multiple products in your portfolio and you want to assign resources to the right products and allow new products to grow, portfolio product management could be a great tool for you. And the way it works, is you start by mapping each of your products into respective stages of the product lifecycle. And then you can use multiple techniques to manage your product portfolio. So understand what's the relative market share versus growth opportunities of your product, and also understand the financial health of your product by understanding the net margin as well as what the sales growth opportunities are for that product, so that you have a better understanding of the relative positioning of your products and you can make informed decisions. And eventually, once you have alignment of your product portfolio, you can try to closely align your business objectives and customer priorities by developing a product portfolio roadmap. And this will give better alignment internally and keep you focused on your customer priorities. So thank you for attending this session. It was my pleasure to host this session, and we'll look forward to interacting with all of you in the future. Thank you.